You wake up, pay your taxes, and follow the speed limit, seeing yourself as a decent, rule-following citizen. But the way you interact with your device suggests a different story. Think about the last time you visited a friend. You sat down, and your phone silently, automatically connected to their Wi-Fi because you'd been there before. You didn't ask for the password today. The technology handled it for you. Many jurisdictions classify this as unauthorized network access. Cyber access statutes are often written broadly, focusing on the act of gaining entry without explicit, current permission. Because the law prioritizes the breach of the boundary over the scale of the network, the same statutes used to prosecute high-level hacking can technically apply to that home router. You might argue that you only wanted to check your email and meant no harm. However, these legal codes rarely require proof of a grand criminal scheme. The simple act of crossing the digital threshold without an invite is enough to qualify as an infraction. We break these rules because our digital convenience has outpaced our natural moral intuition. We've built a world where crossing invisible legal lines is the default setting, leaving us in a state of constant vulnerability we've been trained to ignore. The first pillar is intellectual property. Before the internet, stealing required physical proximity and effort. Today, the digital interface removes the friction that once acted as a barrier to theft. This lack of friction leads to constant infractions, downloading movies from unlicensed sites, grabbing Google images for thumbnails, or reposting a creator's meme. A common misconception is that if you aren't profiting, it isn't a crime. But copyright law protects the creator's exclusive right to distribute their work. Using it without any permission is a strict violation, whether you're charging money for it or giving it away free. This casual attitude toward ownership extends into e-commerce. You've likely seen people listing concert tickets or high-demand electronics for sale online before they've actually secured the items themselves. This practice frequently crosses the line into consumer fraud. The legal issue centers on misrepresentation. By advertising an item as available without disclosing that you don't yet possess it, you are misleading the buyer about the nature of the transaction. In most regions, this lack of transparency is the specific trigger that makes the sale illegal. Whether it's a stolen image or an unowned ticket, the core violation is the same. Both rely on the illusion of possessing something that doesn't actually belong to you. The second pillar is unauthorized access. We tend to view digital platforms as public utilities, but the law views them as fenced-in private property. Sharing a streaming password is a prime example. This doesn't just violate a company's terms of service, it involves using credentials to bypass a digital paywall you didn't pay for, which many jurisdictions define as unauthorized access. Pirated software or cracked games take this a step further. Here, you are simultaneously in possession of stolen property and using a tool specifically designed to bypass security locks. Beyond the legal risk, using these cracks creates a massive security hole. By bypassing the software's native protection, you are inviting in malware and spyware that can harvest your data, turning your computer into an open door for hackers. The legal system views digital authentication, like a password, as a virtual key. Using a credential you weren't personally issued to bypass a security gate falls under the same trespass principles as using a stolen key to enter a private office building. The third pillar involves privacy and consent. We often ignore these boundaries because they seem minor, much like crossing a street against the light when no cars are coming. But in reality, those boundaries are legally binding. Recording a private conversation or a friend in a private space without their knowledge is a prosecutable invasion of privacy, even if you never intend to post it online. Digital snooping carries the same weight. Picking up a partner's phone to read their private messages without their explicit permission is a direct violation of their privacy rights, and often a form of unauthorized access. This concept scales up to business quickly. Collecting emails without recorded permission violates laws like the GDPR. These laws treat personal data as protected assets. Storing consumer information without active proof of consent creates massive liability and heavy fines. The law connects reading a spouse's texts to a corporation hoarding user data. Both are governed by the same strict requirement. You cannot access another's personal information without their active human consent. If you're realizing you've broken several of these laws today, you aren't alone. You aren't likely to see a SWAT team at your door for a shared Netflix password. The justice system typically requires a catalyst to act. like a formal complaint from an individual or a company's automated system flagging your account for a specific violation. However, the everyone does it defense is legally useless if you are the one targeted. Whether it's a surprise fine or a permanent digital ban, the law remains enforceable regardless of how common the infraction is. These invisible laws are designed to protect creator livelihoods, secure our digital systems, and maintain personal privacy. They represent the rules of engagement for a digital society. Awareness is your best defense. Once you know where the lines are drawn, you can safely navigate the digital world. So, which of these invisible boundaries do you find yourself crossing most often?